This is episode number 1, y'all, and I want to tell you a little bit about myself and why I decided to become a full spectrum doula that highlights wellness and self care. Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, and sick to your stomach trying to maintain pre pregnancy responsibilities, grow a baby, and be the best version of yourself for everyone else? If you desire a stress-free birth and postpartum healing that physically prepares your mind, body, and soul for parenthood without the fear, confusion, and isolation that comes with unsolicited advice from both medical professionals and loved ones, then listen, you can turn fear into joy, confusion into confidence, and isolation into connection without feeling guilty, selfish, or inconsiderate. And I'm going to show you how. Welcome to Nurture Your Pregnancy Journey. I'm your host, Troi, creative mother of 2, birth coach, and traditional postpartum healer. On this podcast, you will learn the effects stress has on your pregnancy journey and practical tips that will help you seamlessly insert self-care into your daily life from professional parents just like you who desire to put the control back into the hands of the parents for a positive pregnancy, birth, and postpartum experience. So whether you're becoming a parent for the first time or a parent to many, I am here to support you as you only do the things that bring you joy. Okay, let's start in 2015. I had planned to host my first Soul Space Self-Care Sunday, the day before my birthday. It was a self-care community event curated at a local garden. I had no RSVPs, so I was a little disappointed and found myself bent over in a basement for hours, which was the start of a very tumultuous time in my life. You see, I was running from fear into the arms of pain, creating more confusion and isolation for myself. I knew Soul Space was such a great idea and was so sad that no one would be there that I didn't know what to do. Should I show up regardless? Should I cancel? Should I sulk? I started my self-sabotaging phase that day. It was the start of a 5-year relationship that led me here. This theme of fear, isolation, and confusion is a reoccurring one, so I'll spare you many of the details. Just know that I eventually conceived a child, and although I knew I wasn't ready to be a parent because I hadn't found my life partner, I was fearful that I wouldn't have been able to conceive again if I continued down the path of elective surgeries as a form of birth control. Queen, yes, multiple elective surgeries and in such a short time frame. It's like I was learning that my good parts worked for the first time at 27. You see, I had spent the last 7 years of my life in loving relationships with women, so my parts never were tested in that way. But as I was traveling the country, performing in Vegas, Los Angeles, Atlantic City, everywhere, I would come back home, get reacquainted with this man, and about a month or 2 later, I would find that once again, my good parts were fully functioning, and I needed to make a decision. I would go through this cycle 3 or 4 more times in my life. It's really heavy now that I'm saying it out loud. But let's get back to my decision to go full term with my baby. I went through my pregnancy singing and dancing the entire time. I was doing photo shoots and connecting with my family more than ever. At the same time, my responses to things were different. Stuff was not funny. I was emotional. I was crying all up and through the joint. A little snappy, short-tempered for sure, and just unpredictable. And that is common in pregnancy because we quite literally become 3-headed monsters. Our DNA, Papa's DNA, and baby's DNA just kind of living inside of us. So maybe we don't get 3 heads, but we are transitioning through some shit, all right? Shoot. Which is why so many of our partners can get ghost. We are not the person they thought they fell in love with, which really speaks to poor preparation for parenting. Also, very common. Anyway, because of this, I got really close with my father and sister because they were in the same predicament. It was beautifully crazy for all of us. Now, I'm grateful I had that level of support and understanding when my partner wasn't around. I've supported so many clients who were not so lucky. So I created a safe space for us to share our stories, get advice, find ourselves, and prepare for our dream birth. I call this virtual community Soul Journey, and it speaks to self-exploration during this beautifully interesting transition. Okay. Let me go back to the story. It was the first time I had to be home for an extended period of time and started to notice that my petitions for quality time with my co-parent were being curved. I was being asked to stay in the house and sit down more without the benefit of his presence. Though I understand now why I needed to take it slower. At the time, I felt alone. I felt deprived. I felt great sadness and great disdain, which led me to self-harm. I would partake in substances that just weren't safe for me or my baby. And let me just be very clear, it was like alcohol and marijuana. Either way, it wasn't great for us in my state at all. So I would use that to cope, and then I would feel bad. That was much of my pregnancy with my first son. I remember one day being sick of being alone. Actually, I was not alone. You know, he was leaving me with his kids from his previous relationships, y'all. Now, sometimes it was cute and nice to have them around, but it was excessive. One day, I had one of his children into the night, and he was not answering the phone this day. So after they fell asleep, I started calling them like a mad woman. I called them a million times with no answer, back to back to back to back to back. You know what I'm talking about. You've been here before, acted crazy. So I got sick of it, y'all, and I went searching for him on foot in the middle of the night, pregnant, like 30-something weeks pregnant. I was absolutely out of my mind. It was wild. I walked for miles very late in my pregnancy in a manic state. I saw red. I was furious. I was out of my mind, quite literally. I found myself at the door of one of his best friends. I was the police that night. I was banging. And you know who opened the door? Him. He quickly closed it, ran upstairs, and returned. Told me to go home and that everything was all right. You know what I did? I listened. I walked myself back home disappointed, afraid, and alone. So many instances like this took place that when my son came 4 weeks early, I was not surprised. I was so not surprised that I remember joking, saying, my son said he had to get out of there. He was saving both of our lives. My water broke with my son, and I spent the next 30 hours in labor at Temple Hospital with my mom, my doula, a midwife, and my co-parent by my side. There were visits from musicians, singers, and other people in our lives that our room was such a party. There was such a joy in the room and a strength that came out of me that I had forgot existed. I was turning down epidural offers every 5 minutes, telling nurses that they had to monitor me while I moved, not that I had to be seated. I was coaching myself overnight to breathe and lay as still as possible when each contraction came. I was encouraging and motivating myself. My doula was asleep over there. My mom was on the side of me. The co-parent was asleep somewhere. I was motivating myself. Once my son came, all that stress melted immediately. I finally felt like I had the love that I was longing for. 18 months later, I found myself in the same predicament with my daughter, who came naturally on her due date after 30 hours of non-medicated labor. I was a little more calm with my daughter with substance abuse, but I was still depressed. I still was self-harming. I was suicidal, essentially. So this time, I remember asking my doula, why is he even here? Talking about my co-parent, because he was in the corner on his phone, disconnected from the entire process. I wanted him engaged, or I wanted him out. I understand now that not only was he trash, but he didn't know what to do. He didn't know how to help, and he definitely didn't care to ask the questions. He just wanted to see his baby and get out of there. Those were supposed to be some of the happiest times in my life. And though there were moments of joy, knowing what I know now, I gave up too much of my power. Despite being clinically depressed and suicidal for both my labors well into parenting, I knew I had naturally tapped into my superpower as a woman, and I wanted to share that with others. As I share this, I want to make it very clear that we do not ever need to experience pregnancy or parenthood alone. It's not great for our minds, our bodies, or our spirits, nor does it serve the greater good of our children. Healthy, loving relationships can be formed intentionally to better support growing families. So, if you feel the call to join us in our private community, don't hesitate. Soul Journey is for you no matter what stage of pregnancy you are currently in. I split from that guy after 6 months. Took a training to learn how to support families. It was during this time that I realized there was a thread that connected our mind and bodies throughout pregnancy that had the power to make it beautiful or terrifying. It's the difference between healthy mama and healthy baby or maternal and infant mortality. With this awareness, I started supporting immediately. Like, I graduated in February and my first client was in March. Yes, immediately. It brought me so much joy to support expectant families that I felt like just talking to them and educating them wasn't enough. There was still something missing. So I took a yoga teacher training to safely guide their movement throughout pregnancy and in labor. I taught yoga for a year and decided that I wanted to do more of a postpartum thing. I wanted to do more as a postpartum doula. And so I learned traditional postpartum care steeped in Moroccan tradition. And from there, spent years serving families personalized care that supported the birth of their dreams and offered the postpartum healing they deserved. It was such a hands-on experience that not only prepared them for a stress-free birth, but prepared them to be the parents they always wanted to be. Somewhere in there, I took a parent coaching training to better support my efforts as a parent and spread that wealth to my clients as well. So, as you can hear, it all stemmed from a need in my life to see me more clearly, more lovingly, and more divinely. The support I offer expectant families from conception to parenthood is life-changing. It highlights self-care and self-exploration just in case they find themselves in the predicament that leaves them feeling afraid, alone, and confused. We are here to combat the negative effects of that with practical skills, tips, and tricks that keep us in charge of nurturing our pregnancy journey. If you are interested in joining our Soul Journey community of parents looking to nurture their pregnancy journey from conception to parenthood, click the link below or above to find a safe space to explore the ever-evolving you as you gracefully prepare for the birth of your dreams and the postpartum healing you deserve. Beautiful soul, that's a wrap for today. Look at you taking time out of your busy day for self-care. If you enjoyed today's episode, do me a favor, follow the podcast and leave a review. Following and sharing your thoughts are a perfect way to ensure that parents like you learn how to nurture their pregnancy journey. And it also lets me know that you're enjoying this. If you are interested in joining our Soul Journey community of parents looking to nurture their pregnancy journey from conception to parenthood, click the link below or above to find a safe space to explore the ever-evolving you as you gracefully prepare for the birth of your dreams and the postpartum healing you deserve. So, make sure you share your thoughts before you go. I'll catch you in the next episode. Happy baking, happy healing.